That's what I was going to say. Like, it seems like a pattern. All the greatest things that have happened to us stem from pain and then us leaning into the painful moment. And I think anyone that isn't as successful, it's because when the pain showed up, they
sheltered.
Yeah, they pulled back instead of leaning in.
Welcome to another episode of the 4Media Uncut podcast. We got two insane guests today, flying all the way from Denver, Colorado. The first one is Mr. Joel Kaplan himself. This guy even mentored us in our agency process as well. This guy has scaled multiple 7-figure agencies and has an 8-figure coaching business now, showing agency owners how to actually scale their companies from the marketing to the sales to the operations of the processes, and even being able to build them to sell and get acquired by other people as well. So this guy is helping thousands of people accomplish their dreams. He's made so many millionaires I can't even count at this point, as one of the biggest names of the space.
And we are joined by Joel's business partner, Mr. J.R. Rivas. Both of them shared amazing stories of how they started. Joel shared his story of growing up in Venezuela, and J.R. shared the story of how he started his first businesses, growing up with a single mom. They're just both brilliant marketers, brilliant entrepreneurs and businessmen. And now JR is actually on the real estate side, and both of them are trying to acquire a ridiculous amount of properties in the next couple of years. So without any further ado, please enjoy this episode, Mr. JR Rivas and Joel Kaplan.
I was going to say, we should there's this monastery in California where you go for minimum 7 days and no phones for 7 days. And
like with monks?
You're with monks. Like
Whoa.
brown robe motherfuckers.
Bro, I feel like
Brown robe motherfuckers.
dude, I feel like that's a dangerous game because I feel like I could come out a completely different person. Like what if my
Why is that dangerous?
Because like what if my wife doesn't love me anymore because I'm a completely different.
That's how I
like,
feel
you
about
see how deep it
ayahuasca.
could go?
But hold up.
You know what I mean? Like
But if you're a more happier person, if you're a more grounded person, if you're a more enlightened person, then maybe it wasn't dangerous.
That's how I feel about ayahuasca. But
I agree, but like that statement of a more aware or happy person is kind of like also perspective. Like it could be temporary happiness. I could leave this monastery and be like, this is who I am now. A year later, I'm like, what the fuck was I thinking? You know what I mean?
the six-pack abs guy,
Yeah.
Mike Chang,
Yeah.
or whatever, 6-minute abs,
Yeah.
he did ayahuasca, and then he came back and was like, I don't want to fucking be the 6-minute abs guy anymore.
Wow.
He
See
just
what I'm saying?
walked away from
Like
it
imagine
all.
I came back, I'm like, fuck 4Media, it's over.
It's not like that, though. It's not like, if anything, it's an observation of your
I would
life.
agree. I think it's fair to be scared, but if you're also avoiding it because of the potential discomfort, I think it's more of a reason to lean in.
Fair point as well.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Speaking of ayahuasca, we actually have a client who sells it.
Really?
So you were like, how do you not get banned? We sell that shit online.
On Facebook.
$300,000 a month.
On Facebook.
Selling ayahuasca. Like literally blowing drugs into their nose.
They sell like
It's another
it's
level.
like hape, and they like, I think they kind of like discreetly, they're basically like, yeah, we know a guy and it's them. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, we got connections.
they're literally in the rainforest. Like they're literally like, yeah, we won't be able to respond to your messages.
Is there
on
address
Slack
like
this
a random
weekend.
PO box, like in a random state?
PO box, you wish, bro. It's like Colombia. They
Oh.
don't answer for 3 days. Who's just
They're
saying,
literally like, yeah, we won't be able to answer Slack. We're going deep into the rainforest for a few days. Like literally, they'll say that type of
For
shit.
an adventure.
So they sell
Yeah.
the trips to the jungle?
No, they sell the stuff themselves. But they also kind of like
Wow.
a coach selling a supplement, but he's a fitness coach kind of thing. Like he sells, they sell the supplement, but they also do their own retreats and webinars and things like that.
too
Sounds
scared to do
sketch.
ayahuasca.
I'm in.
Bro, the camera will turn off in a call. Swear to
I was
God.
just about to say this.
And then like 2 minutes later, because it's multiple people, someone's camera will turn off, and like 2 minutes later they come back, and you can tell they just like ingested some shit, like their face and like everything just looks like they like struggle. Yeah, so
And their eyes are watering and
yeah,
shit.
they're like wiping tears. I'm like, really?
There's
like,
this
could
stuff
we not
called
wait,
hape.
like 10 more minutes.
It's basically like almost like
Is this a
snorting.
podcast about ayahuasca, by the way?
I mean, it can be.
That's
I feel
for
like
sure.
we should just roll. I feel like we should just roll into it by
I don't
now.
know enough. I don't know enough about it.
But there's like this stuff called hape. It's like powdered like tobacco or something, and they like snort it into their nose, and it gives you this like crazy head rush. And sometimes you can mix it with like cacao. Some people mix it with DMT. It's like fucking crazy. but you snort it and it's just like this. It's like
Shot to
this crazy
your
like
system.
shock. It's almost like when those guys that sniff that stuff before they lift, like the ammonia or whatever. It's kind of like that. I feel like.
That's fair, but like on a way more extreme.
Yeah, on like way more of a heady
Well, she does it
level.
she steps away during calls and does it, and then comes back to the calls and she's like crying.
Yeah,
So
it's weird.
Yeah, it's intense. Anyways,
anyway,
Wait,
We
this
got-
isn't this. Who is this? You
can't-
guys
we can't
lost me.
disclose
We were,
that. We can't disclose
okay.
Sorry.
a friend.
We
a
were
client.
we were in we went all around the universe in the past minute and a half.
from
know.
monasteries to just blowing drugs in Colombian forests. So.
Some brown robe motherfuckers.
And that's a good start to this episode.
I
We
know.
got Mr. J.R. Rivas, and that's correct, right? 100%.
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Joel Kaplan, two extremely young and successful people from different
Don't
ways.
forget sexy.
Sex, and that's part of being successful. It's it's
You gotta
looks, it's money, it's time. So before we dive in, I always like to start these by you guys kind of giving a background about yourself. Like we'll get into like the childhood stuff later, but like high school and up kind of timeline of kind of like where you are in life and where that came to be from. So whoever, JR, you can go first, bro.
High school. So high school is when I was like, I want to be an entrepreneur. Like I want
Okay.
to make a lot of money, because we had like a career day, and this dude came in with like this big sheet of careers, and it was like, this is a career, this is how much it makes. So I went straight to the how much it makes column.
We all did
And
this,
then
right?
and it was like lawyer, doctor, engineer were like the top three. And then I was like, well, fuck, my GPA is like 2.2 or something. So
No chance on those.
So then I went to the guy and I was like, hey, I want to make a lot of money, but I don't want to do any of these things. He's like, well, there's another option on that's not on there. I'm just like, what is it? He's like, an entrepreneur. It's what I am.
You have to sign up for my $9.97 program, and I'll tell you.
And then you just bring two friends who bring two friends. But no, he was like legit, and he was like, I've never
That's
been
messed
to
up.
college other than to learn how to fly my plane. He's like, I've never been to school other than to learn how to fly my plane. And I was like,
that man was Grant Cardone.
I don't even fucking remember his name. He actually had a book though.
Wait, this guy was at a career fair?
No, he came
Seems
to
like
our
a
school.
great
It was
guy.
Gary Vee.
So I
Yo, I didn't get those kind of people
That's
in my
great.
school.
That's
They
sick. That's
don't
sick.
get a job. That's their job.
Well,
Booth.
I went to high school in like the hood. So it was like, hey, 90% of my high school experience was like, go to the military, because if not, you're going to be a piece of shit.
Yeah.
So a lot of people went to the military, but then they would bring in like little alternatives. Like they'd bring in a guy to teach you about like plumbing and electrical and shit like that, like push you that way. So it was like, hey, most of these kids aren't going to make it, so let's just try to get some of them to do something with their lives type thing. So yeah, and then I started a tax business to keep it short. Started a tax business when I was 18 because
Which is crazy.
I looked around and I was like, it really wasn't like the thought process at the time made sense. I was like, what business can I start with no money? And I was like, tax business. You just need some computers and you just need an office. And at the time, I just knew like offices were cheap in my area in like downtown.
Where were you
Downtown where?
again?
I was in Allentown, Pennsylvania. So it was like the office spaces were like $800 a month for like 1,000 square foot. So I was like, I don't know how to do taxes, but if I save up like 10 grand, I could probably like get an office and get some computers and start doing taxes. So I was like, I'll figure out the tax thing later. I just need to get the logistics in order. So
You're nuts, bro.
so I was like, tax code's 70,000 pages, but I'll figure that part out. I just need to get the business up and running.
That's sick. That's too
Dude, I
fun.
think, by the way, I think it shows the true character of who you are, that you're willing to just fully commit to something, even if you have no idea what it entails in a very powerful way.
I just was like, okay, I just thought about it and I was like, people do their taxes on their own on TurboTax. So it's like, if people are doing that, it can't be that fucking difficult. So I actually went.
But what let you to even have those thoughts at such a young age?
I just knew, like, I didn't want to just be a bum and I didn't want to go to college. So I was like, I need to start a business. I need to start something. But I didn't know what. I didn't know any entrepreneurs. I didn't know anybody around me that was doing anything.
Yeah, at the end of the day, this was your first shot. You could mess up the next 20 and be fine.
Right.
And you were
right.
what, living with your mom? Like,
Yeah, exactly. I was working like
Yeah.
a shitty temp job where I like tested fire alarm systems, and in like I would go to office buildings like this. I would go to like universities. It was like $12 an hour. Yo, I almost fucking cost that company like 60 grand because
Wow.
there's these rooms where there's like hard drives and shit, like the server room.
The server
Yeah,
rooms,
yeah,
Yeah, and they have a fire alarm system in there that is independent of the other fire alarm system. So that I actually didn't have a key to the room, but there was somebody in there that let me in, and I look at the fire alarm and I'm like, all right, I'm going to blast it. So we would blast it with like aerosol. It would trigger the system, but it'd be in test mode. So it wouldn't, it wouldn't sound off. Yeah. Occasionally we'd fuck up and it would, and everybody get pissed. But so I go in the room and I'm like, okay, there's a fire alarm, and I blast it. And then the alarm goes off. And this was like it was like an old folks home.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
and
no.
Yeah. So then I'm like,
guy.
that's weird. And when it goes off the first time, it's like a 60-second delay. And if you blast it again, then it dumps the system, which basically sucks all the oxygen out of the room to put the fire out so that you wouldn't harm the servers. But you'd put the fire out. So if you dump that thing, it's like $60,000. So luckily,
It sounds like a terrible idea in an old folks home to suck all the oxygen out. Yikes!
He just slaughters the whole home. Bro.
Well, like the only people that have the oxygen thing in their nose are the only ones that survive.
dude, they got so pissed. But I was like, okay, it's like my third day on this job. I'm like 19 years old. I was like 18 years old, and you guys never educated me on how this works. So luckily, though, that didn't happen. But anyways, so I worked at that job, and I did a shit ton of overtime, and that's how I saved up enough money to. It was actually interesting how I got the tax business, because I ended up not starting one from scratch. I bought one. I did like a hostile leveraged buyout at 18 years old.
Wow.
I read The Art of the Deal by Donald Trump, and this was 2013. And
What a book, huh?
this dude goes in the book. He's actually everybody should read that book, regardless of how you feel. He's actually a savage. He's like, when I want a deal, I just push and push and push until I get it. And he goes, in one of the chapters, it's really funny. He needs like investor capital, I believe, for this project. So the investor's like, oh, I want to see the project. So he calls everybody and he's like, hey, just look busy. I'm coming by the site. And there's like a guy who's like literally picking up dirt and then putting it in another spot and then picking it up and then putting it back. And literally, and the guy was like, wow, this is the busiest construction site I've ever seen. So he's just a master of finesse. So I read that book. And I was like, I bet you there's a way, because I had learned how to do taxes by working at a place. I took like a free tax school. The guy had 3 offices. He seemed like he didn't want to do it anymore. So I went to him and I was like, hey, what if I buy one of your offices? No fucking money at all. Like I had $3,000 to my name that I had made by working with him. And he goes, okay, like, what are you thinking? And he's like, you can take any one that you want. So I picked the one purely. The only reason I picked this one is because it had the lowest rent. It was $850 a month. So I go to this guy, and he's like, all right, well, I want like $80,000 for it. So I'm like, cool, I'll give you 80, but we'll do it in installments. And he's like, cool. He's like, all right, give me $15,000 right now. So I'm like, done. I have $3,000 to my name, and I'm 18 years old.
Bro, you're fucking wild. Like what?
It's 2013. So I go to banks. I make an elaborate.
I guess
business
we're all just
plan.
a bunch of degenerates. That's what it's gonna sound like.
So I go to. I make an elaborate business plan, like projecting like the growth that it's had over the last 3 years, and like what I plan to do with it, and it's super sophisticated. Like I thought, like, okay, to start a business, you need a business plan, which is obviously wrong. But I took that to banks, and they were like, "Wow, this is the most prepared I've ever seen anybody in my entire life." That came in here to ask for money.
Maybe you do need a business plan.
But we're not giving you shit, because it was
Yikes.
like 2013. The economy had just taken a dump. Like banks weren't loaning any money.
Yeah, out of all people to you.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And they were like, well, do you have collateral? And I'm like, what's that? And then they're like, well, does your mom own a house? And I'm like, yeah, but she had like 0 equity. So I was going through all I met with like 15 banks. I was driving to like New Jersey, New York, like anybody that I knew that knew somebody in banking, I was like meeting with them. So I even had bankers come out to the actual location. So anyways, couldn't make it happen. So I go back to the guy and I'm like, yo, I really want to make this happen, but I'm just having a hard time coming up with the cash. So what if you do like a 6-month note with me, and rather than giving you 15, I'll give you 25, but I'll give it to you in 6 months. So the way the tax business works is it's seasonal. So you make all your money from January to April 15th, and then it's pretty dead the rest of the year. So this was late. This was like September, October. So I was like, in February, I'll give you $25,000. So the business wasn't like super duper profitable. Like he had done $80,000 in revenue all year. the year prior.
Yeah.
So I was like, I have to grow the shit out of this just to be able to pay him back, or it's like game over. So he goes, sure, but there was like it was a franchise, so there was like a $5,000 transfer fee. So he's like, if you pay that, then I will, then I'll like, I'll float you for 6 months, and then you pay me $25,000 in 6 months. So I'm like, okay, cool. So
Still need $2,000 though.
Yeah. So exactly. So I needed $2,000, and I grew up poor as fuck. Like I don't know anybody at the time that even has any kind of money. So I enroll in community college, take out a student loan.
Stop. Stop. Fucking
This
balls on
is
the table.
this is why I was like, I need to partner with JR. From the day I met him, like when we first met, well, not right when we first met, but like a year later, I was like, I need to do an event with this guy. I just wanted to get close with him, and not just for his accomplishments, but for his character. Because to have the commitment to go through something like that,
Dude, at the time I just didn't know.
You can't find that just anywhere.
At the time I just didn't know. Like I was just like, I got to make this happen. And I just knew, I was like, I'm going to fucking own
even
this
today,
place.
even today, we started I own a consulting company, and then we started a real estate company together. And JR was like, well, I've never built a real estate company, but the goal is 1,000 units. And I told him, I'm like, I am not worried at all. We're going to hit the goal. Like, there's no doubt. And JR's like, well, I don't know. I'm like, it's just who you are. That's what matters. Everything else can be figured out. So
Yeah, I learned a good lesson from that.
I hope you take that as a compliment, by the
Joel's
way.
definitely hyping you up, man.
This is where you say
Yes.
thank you, Joel.
This is just going to be,
I appreciate you as a friend.
this is just going
Thanks
to
for
be
saying anything about me.
me and Joel just jerking each other off for 2 hours, basically.
Yeah, how about you do my
So,
intro?
okay.
What you got?
Yeah, this is an intro. I forgot. I've just hijacked it. So to wrap it
This is
up,
actually the JR podcast, if you guys didn't know.
Joe Rogan.
to wrap it the fuck up, so we did the deal, but that was all my money. So now I have a business and no money. The landlord comes to me. He's like, hey, I need a deposit. And I need,
Shit.
yeah. So I take out a 0% interest credit card. I run it through my merchant processor, and boom, I got $2,000 right there.
Wow.
And then I
You charged yourself in the merchant processor, dude.
Stop.
Yeah.
No, you didn't, bro.
charged myself.
I'm dying.
And-
I used to do that to get money off of gift cards. I would like swipe it on a Square account. Like I'm like, fuck, I'll lose the like 2% processing fee. I want that money.
Yeah, and then that's how I just kind of worked it myself, and I was able to save up a little bit more because I had some time before tax season to then like I knew that once I had employees start working, it was 3 weeks till from the moment they started working to the day that they got paid. So I just kind of timed it right to where I wouldn't need to pay them until money started coming in. And then I wrote that check to the dude in February. Wow. And then we came back and we did the same deal again for the other 2 locations. And I was 1953 employees, 3 locations, and I didn't know what the fuck I was doing still. I mean, I still don't know
That's
what the
too
fuck
funny,
I'm doing.
man.
So
That's crazy.
that led to digital marketing and entrepreneurship and stuff like that.
No. Keep going. I mean, in 5
So,
minute, you
yeah.
can give us the rest. You know what
So
I mean? No
in
need to cut it
short,
out.
When did you buy your Corvette?
that was 2017. So in short, I ran the 3 offices for 1 year. First year we had a 60% increase on the first location. And of course, like his revenue was pretty low or whatever. So then I get the other 2 offices, and these are all in the same town, like different parts of town.
So how much are you profiting with the 3 offices?
So the first year, the first office, it wasn't a ton. The first office did like 125 the first year. So that was like the season right after I had taken over it. But because it's seasonal, it's really like it runs on like a fiscal year essentially.
I get you. Yeah, we have a
because
water
all of-
park, so like I get that.
Yeah, so it's like
Like,
January.
we're actually fucked.
Right.
For 8
Wait,
months.
what?
Right.
Would you
So-
say you have a water
After.
Later
later in the
It's
episode.
like
in
January,
Lebanon.
February.
on that one.
Second year.
I was like, what the fuck? So you own
And
Whitewater?
and he just goes, I have a water park. I'll tell you later. Okay, cool.
It's not a public water park. It's just in my backyard.
No, I'm just telling him like I get you. Yeah. Like, we're
And then what does
fucked
this have
right
to do
now.
with well, I guess okay, seasonal. I get
You
it.
can't swim. You
Seasonal.
can't swim.
So like
in the
making
winter.
200 grand is like it's like really in a 3-month period. You know what I
Right.
mean? It's like impressive. It's not.
It's like
Right.
Christmas trees.
What else is it like? else is seasonal?
So many seasonal
guys, this is
All right,
never
stay
gonna
focused.
end. So okay,
going.
so you
Yeah.
had 3 locations.
Yeah, so
Go
then
on.
we did. I think the first and these were shit. Like he gave me both of them for 60 grand. The rent on one of them was like 40 grand, I want to say. And
The
then
rent?
Yeah.
What? How big
Yeah,
of an
for the
office
year.
space?
It was
Oh,
like
for the year,
1,800.
for the
Yeah, it
year.
was like 1,800 square feet.
Bro, holy! I thought we were talking months here. I'm like, what's going on?
No, dude, you got to sling a lot of fucking tax.
I was like, you went from 800 to 40 grand a month in rent. I'm like, JR, what just happened, bro?
no, there was a good location. It was right next to Little Caesars and in between a dentist on a main street.
Okay. So, but then from there you transitioned.
There was a
into
water
digital
park a
marketing.
mile away.
Yeah, so then I sold all those, and so long story, I borrowed a fuck ton of money to float these because now I had to float these all locations, rent and everything. I bought them right after the season ended, which was a huge mistake. Like I should have just stalled like 4 or 5 months because he wasn't going to find anybody else to buy.
Yeah.
And then after the 4 or 5 months, then take over because then I missed those 4 or 5 months of expenses with no revenue.
Yeah.
So I borrowed a fuck ton of money to float the locations now, all the way from like April all the way
Oh
until
my
next January.
God, shit.
Yeah,
Wow.
it was dumb. But me being 19, I'm like, well, fuck, if I don't get these now, like this is my opportunity. He might sell it to somebody else, which in reality, like it's fucking hard to sell a business.
Yes.
Only
Yeah.
like 2% of businesses ever sell ever. So,
it's got to be attractive at the end of the day.
right.
The
And
business
this
world
was
has
like,
changed.
yeah,
now.
and he was
Yeah.
like declining in revenue. So I was like, well, fuck, I turned around the first one, so I can turn around these two as well. So I ended up running those for 1 year, and I literally was like way in over my head. Like one location was cool because I'm there all the time. I had a marketing team, and I did some crazy shit for marketing. Like this is where I learned that I was really running a marketing business that happened to do taxes. So that's where I learned how to do mailers, and we did door hangers, and I would like pay people to put those out, and we would go like business to business and do tax returns for free for like the business owner if he like puts our coupons in with his employees' W-2s. And we did like we had a radio ad one time. We would pay you $50 if you brought him in to do his taxes. I'd pay you $50 on the spot. So I'd had people bringing me like 20 people, and our average net fee for a tax return was like $300. So I basically made a Ponzi scheme where you bring your friends to do their taxes, and then I started tying incentives to it. So I was like, hey, if you bring me 10 people, I'll buy you a 32-inch flat screen TV,
I'll buy you a pizza from Little Caesars.
and you
next
get
door.
$50 for every
Yeah,
person.
lifetime
that comes
access to Eddie's water park.
in. Right, and then dude.
Sorry, that one really threw me off.
So I learned.
You guys are gonna have to close the loop for me on that one at some point tonight.
I feel like everyone listening at this point is probably thinking the same thing.
Okay,
so
cool.
we'll-
This is
we'll
great.
go-
It's the
I
first
just- I
time we
would
brought it up
appreciate
on the podcast.
I want to know about water park operations.
Sorry, I don't mean to keep cutting you off.
So so that's where I learned like business, and like we'd have a packed waiting room on the busiest day of the year, and I'm like, fuck, how do I keep these people here? How do I keep them from going down the street? Hey, everybody, I'll be back in 5 minutes. Free pizza for everybody, and I'd go to Little Caesars and get like 15 pizzas.
You weren't lying about the Little Caesars.
Yeah, it was literally right next door. So I learned a lot about business. I sold those locations. I sold 2 to the company, 1 to somebody else, and then I moved to Virginia Beach and bought another one from the company, the franchise.
Another tax business.
Mhm.
Cool.
And this was on like a main street in Virginia Beach.
How old
like,
are you here?
21.
Okay, so we just covered like 4 years of time.
Right.
Okay, cool.
So I buy a tax business in Virginia Beach on Main Road, 55,000 like traffic count, and Virginia Beach was the birthplace of this franchise. So I don't want to say their name because like fuck them, like they don't deserve the clout. But,
I'm pretty sure I remember what it is. I won't say
But,
it. I won't say it.
Google JR's name.
But so yeah, I mean, people figure it out. So but I'm not gonna give it to them without people having to work.
They just got so much more traffic.
Now everybody wants.
No, they're all just
Everyone's
going
on
to
Google.
JR's website.
So actually, funny
It's just
story.
his landing page.
This whole story ends with the CEO. He was like the first person to get Me Too'd, like even before Harvey Weinstein. And that was like
Oh,
the
Me
downfall
Too'd.
of the whole of the franchise. He was like,
Wow.
he was fucking people in his office, and there was like HR complaints.
No way.
So there was an internal investigation where I'll get to that, but they basically forced him out. But anyways, so bought the tax business. Then that year, annual
You guys
report.
have so many random little things that you just talk about, and then we just don't
That's how we
mention
keep-
it again. And by the way, this guy
keep 'em
This
hooked.
guy's a
committed
water.
sexual crimes. The CEO. We'll get back to that later.
He's just banging the whole team in the office. We're like, okay, yeah,
You
that's
keep
cool.
them hooked. Keep 'em hooked.
I'll tell you about that tomorrow.
So that year, H&R Block.
Sorry, you
which
gotta
is
you gotta have fun on these, you know.
Exactly.
That's what
You
it's
gotta have
about.
fun. You gotta-
H&R Block, which is a public company, they come out with an annual report called the 10K. Every public company has to file one. So that year, I saw that H&R Block's tax returns had been declining, and this was the first year where people doing their taxes in person. I think this was 20.
This is like when
15.
TurboTax and stuff started getting big, right?
Yeah, it started popping off. This was the first year where less people did their taxes in person than the year prior. So my
Bro,
location.
mad respect to you for using that data point to maneuver your strategy.
Yeah, I was.
Because most people, they're like, it's 1 year. You were like,
Well,
it's
so
fucking coming.
It
Here
had
goes.
stagnated. It had stagnated for a couple of years, and this was the first decline. So I was like, okay, if it hasn't grown in a couple of years and now it's declining, I'm like, I need to get the fuck out. So I sold to one of my neighboring franchisees, and then I just started a podcast. And then I started interviewing. My goal was like, I want to make money on the internet, but I didn't think anybody was actually making money on the internet. So I was like, I'm going to interview people to prove that they're not making money on the internet. And then through doing that, I was like, oh, fuck, there is actually people making money on the internet. And then that's when I started my agency. And I ran the agency. That's how I met Joel, working with Kairos. And then
How long ago?
This was at the end of 2016.
Okay.
So
cool.
I was
This is when I
22.
saw you
Wow.
at Dan Henry's event, around there.
Yeah,
A year later,
yeah.
you were at Dan Henry's.
So I was 22, and I would
Yeah, JR
always
had really quick success with the agency. I
Yeah.
think it was like right when people started getting into it.
Yeah. So I started posting my results in like the ClickFunnels group and stuff. So people would message me and be like, "Hey, how are you like doing this?" And I would be like, "Hey, I'll show you." And I would charge them like $150 to jump on a call with me and just show them my whole strategy, basically.
Stop.
This guy, he bought like 3 sessions at once, and that's when I was like, I don't feel like I'm charging
David?
enough for this. No, but David was one of the first people to buy like a one-on-one.
Great guy, David Thompson. He scaled
So,
to like 100.
Like, you know what I liked about you, bro? I saw you at Dan Henry's event in Tampa, and he like gave you like one of the best awards that he had at the conference. And everyone who is like in that category was like kind of like especially online, not just in the way they spoke, but online, was like thinking they were like super successful and flash because of it. And JR was like super like mellowed out. Like, I don't know if that's
I
a
mean,
valid
I'm
statement.
About receiving the award.
I'm a pretty chill.
Yeah,
person.
like he.
Yeah, you can be charismatic and out there, but
Yeah, for
for
sure.
the most part, you're chill.
But not even it's not even that. Like sometimes there's too little emotion from people, but like it was more like he was
Down to
kind of
earth?
like, yeah, he didn't, and I didn't speak to him, but like he just didn't come off as like, yeah, like you guys can do it too and all this. Like he was just very like raw, I think is the word. Like raw. He was raw.
Yeah.
And I was like, I like that guy.
I think I was more just grateful because, like, dude, I grew up like for 6 months we didn't have fucking running water at one point. So like for me to be a dickhead, it's like, you know, I would just feel so like even now. People like I'll notice that like I'll do bougie things now. Like I'll complain like about the types of cheeses on the charcuterie board or whatever, and I'm like I catch myself.
He did complain.
I catch myself doing that, and I'm like, what the fuck? Like I grew up eating one kind of cheese, and that's the only one I ever knew of, and it was American on my school lunch sandwiches. So
Those were the best.
I catch myself like doing shit like that or thinking shit like that, and I'm always like, dude, you need to remember like none of this shit is like was supposed to happen. Like you weren't supposed to be like, I remember the first time getting on like a plane as an adult and I was like, holy shit, like
Wow.
I fucking made it. And
Wow, that's fucking crazy. Because
Damn.
me growing up, we used to fly on planes all the time. It was normal.
it was super rare.
20-hour plane trips, we'll take them as a family.
Yeah. So now as an adult, like I still feel guilty when I feel any sense of like entitlement, like when the waiter fucks up my order. And most of the time, like I used to just eat it because I felt like just grateful to be there anyways. Now I've had to like force myself to be like, no, like I'm paying for this. I earned this. You need to fix this
Your
shit.
value, yeah.
So yeah, I don't know where the fuck we were in the story, but
So what do you do now? We'll jump into that.
okay.
Joel, you know, at this point, you're narrating the
You want
entire
me to just finish
podcast.
this story? I mean, I can if you guys want me to. There's this water
Joel's the
park, guys.
narrator.
Dude, just finish it off. You're almost there. Agency, then
So
VA
agencies
agency.
led into coaching. I was like, all right, I'm just going to do like a master class and just give everything away.
Did you sell the agency or what happened there?
No. So I ran them simultaneously for a while. Joel, I did a master class. Joel came to that master class, and that's where I gave away like my secrets.
Was it the one in Atlanta?
No, it was a virtual one. It was like $300.
Which is crazy, by the way, because he showed the one ad to help chiropractors get patients that transformed our entire business, which is crazy. Like that one ad is still being used today. Which is
Damn.
nuts.
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy.
But it also shows a different problem, which is the fact that the insights and the information is never the issue with people's ability to succeed or not with coaching and information. It's who they are as people and their ability to commit and take action or their inability to do so. But that's a separate point. We'll come back to it later, guys.
Look, I 100% agree with that, though.
Let's drop it. That was
my,
I'm just kidding.
my wife and I talk about this too. She's like, how is it that like you teach so many people and everyone's like, you are so good at teaching and I understand everything. And
Yes.
And she's like, but like, aren't you scared you're giving away too much or all this? I'm
No.
like, at the end of the day, they can't replicate me. And like, they can do as much as they want and know as much as they want, but they cannot replicate me. I can't replicate Andrew. He's a completely different person. I wouldn't have this probably without Andrew because that's the person that he is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I told my team the other day, I was like, why don't we just give away our entire information, the entire information database for free? And then let people pay for access, for proximity, and for personalized support. Because the information is not going to change their lives.
Yeah. That's why YouTube channels give away everything at the end of the day. Like,
Yeah. That's like the bigger pockets
And,
model.
and one more thing, like I realized this as a coach, when I got into the coaching space, I was like, the problem is not the information here. For example, I knew how to run ads to get clients, but no one was running ads to get clients. So my thought process was not, how do I teach someone to run ads to get clients? My thought process was, how do I convince someone to believe in themselves enough to run ads to get clients? The strategy, who cares? And it's going to come and go, and it's going to be there, and it's going to be free.
you're so right. You're literally teaching them to bet on themselves with their own money at the end of the day.
Like the other day, I helped someone, and I guess now we're going into this, but I helped someone come up with their messaging strategy, and I said, if you don't send 100 messages by Friday, I'm going to remove you from my program and give you a full refund. Because I knew the script wouldn't matter. That's not what holds most people back. It's their inability to believe in themselves enough to take action. So I don't know where we were going with that, but the
I
ad,
agree with you
yeah.
to a certain ceiling.
You think so?
Yeah. I think working hard and doing the reps gets you so far without the brain to solve problems quickly.
For sure. You need the talent. You do need the,
You know what I
you do
mean?
need the information, but maybe I'll say that's why I'm not afraid to give it away.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
Exactly. I agree. But so tell us, wait, you're not done with his story yet, right?
Yeah, I mean, so we'll get into what I'm doing now, but essentially all this really led through indirect way to me doing real estate full time now, and me and Joel are now business partners, and I'm growing our portfolio, and our goal is 1,000 units by 2024 or die.
That's sick. That's huge.
So
I like
today-
the goal. I like how the goal ends in or die.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like the goal is life
It's
and
all-
death.
Like people are like, what are you
one
going
of
to do?
our one of our core values is win or die,
I love
and
it.
it's not a physical death, obviously.
It is for me.
I do
like
no,
pause on
to
this
say this on
story.
record. I do
998
not
units.
recommend that. It's more of a, are you willing to die for this in an emotional way, in a spiritual way, not an actual.
But for me, when I think about it, I literally think about it. Stresses me. I was telling him today, dude, this goal stresses me the fuck out because I think about it as if like, if this doesn't happen, there is no life for me beyond that. Like I can't even imagine like that not happening and then me still going on with life. And I think sometimes it's unhealthy, but at
it's
the same time,
to a certain degree, it can be
gives me,
healthy
like, this
pressure.
crazy urgency.
Pressure. Sometimes I put pressure on myself when I don't need to because it makes me act differently.
For sure.
You know
Like
what I mean?
we one of our other core values is all in or quit. I tell my own team, if you're not all in, you're not being fair to yourself. You're not being fair to your team members. You're not being fair to the clients. You're not being fair to
The company at the end of the day.
yeah. And if you're not all in, just quit. And I think
I'm stealing that, by the way.
Go for
right
it.
here in front of everyone's ears.
There you go. Put it on the wall.
Send this podcast to all your employees.
That's
Just
it.
be like, hey.
I think
I'm like,
no,
new
but
rules.
I
Flip it.
thought they were gonna be upset when I said that, and I was definitely hesitant. But I think it actually was like, wow, if Joel's really willing to put himself so far out there for the success of all of us, I should be too. And if I'm not, maybe this isn't the place for me. So I think I always say, like, I don't think you should die. I really think, like, that's I want to put that out there. But it's more like, are you willing to act as if?
Yeah.
Because that's what it takes. That's what it takes. And I also believe that if you don't hit the goal, that wasn't the point. The point was to literally give it your all.
You've heard of the quote, the Shark Tank? Like, if a shark is growing in a tank, it will only grow to 8 feet. If it grows in the ocean, or 8 inches, if it grows in the ocean, it'll be 8 feet.
Yeah.
Like, because of the boundaries that it sets for itself. I feel like that's what that pressure kind of does.
Yes. So the goal is, that's what I told you today. Like, the goal is relevant, but it's also totally irrelevant. The point is to literally put so much pressure for us to go all in to see what happens.
And 2 years of that, wild.
And whether we hit it or not, as long as we went all in.
He's going to die, but, like, you're good.
He's not going to die. Just putting that out
there. Look, two things, though.
It's like 999 JR's in a coffin.
I literally told my team, I was like, guys, this is not physical. When we put that core value, I threw some disclaimers. I was like, guys, no one is dying here, okay? It's a spiritual.
Yeah. Mental death. Cool thing, though, that you I feel like experienced at an early age, which I think is the reason you're probably so strong onto real estate and the certain strategies financially you do with it, is I feel like at an early age, you over leverage, but you found out how to leverage like debt from the American banking system.
I would say I over leveraged
because
I had nothing to lose.
Yeah.
If I had something to lose,
of course, but you also, like, at that age, you don't really understand debt properly. Right. Like, now you understand debt at another level. Now you're like, how can I make someone else's money make me more money without me having to put the money that's in my bank account to make more money?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's like but like most people don't understand that. And all these people always like talk to me like, oh, America this, America that. I'm like, bro, at the end of the day, this is like one of the only countries in the world where you can go to a bank, put 20% down, and they will give you 100% back on a fucking
mortgages
10-year note.
Don't even exist for the most part in other.
They do not exist. You have to pay cash,
That's cool.
In
or
Turkey,
you don't get it.
No mortgage,
dude. In most of the world, there's no more. Every country that Lebanon, no mortgages. South America, no mortgages. Mexico, no mortgage. Bro, you're paying cash. Like, you're not getting a home unless you pay cash. Most people inherit their homes.
Right.
That's how the system works. Most people inherit, and people that don't live there or have made a fuck ton of money buy more.
How smart it is, because for most families, that's how they build their wealth. So if your great grandparents had a house and then they died, passed it down to your parents, they bought a house. Now your family has 2 houses, and then those appreciate and those are worth $1 million. Then they pass them down to you. You bought your house. So it's like the foolproof way to build wealth, and that's why, like, I don't know who the fuck came up with the mortgage, but they knew, like, when the economy went to shit during COVID, the first thing they did drop interest rates, because that's an accelerator.
Moves money.
It's an accelerator in the economy.
Yeah.
So that's like a gift that we have in society. The fact that you could leverage fucking.
What's
money
crazy
like
is that most people have no idea.
Yeah.
They don't even know that you can. I mean,
They haven't thought about it.
Let me tell you how deep this shit goes.
Like, they know you can get a loan, but they're not thinking about why that, like, works.
or how they're not thinking about the most important piece of the loan, which is leverage. They're probably just thinking, I want to buy a house.
Of how am I
this is
gonna-
not entrepreneurs. This is just like everyday Americans.
Everyday Americans, 100%. And a friend of ours, George Yu, which everyone here knows, he actually, this is like the deepest I've ever seen someone take it in like a sentence. But I was like, we were in Mexico for my wedding. We were on the beach. There's like 25 people out there, all like very good people, like intellectual people in each of their own categories. Some in money, some in other talents, but like very high level people. And I asked the question, I was like, what are you guys doing right now to combat inflation? Like, is it through hedging? Like, hedging, how are you trying to hedge? Is it through crypto? Like, is it through real estate? Like, what's everyone trying to do here? Like, for me, I was like, I'm investing cash back into the company as quickly as possible, essentially, to create cash flow rather than sitting cash. And, people are like, crypto this, and George Yu, like didn't answer. He was just kind of like chilling. And I was like, yo, George, like, what are you doing to hedge? And he's like, loans. And I'm like, motherfucker, this is genius. Like,
Yeah.
someone's giving
told me
me
the same thing.
a 20-year payment to pay them back at 3%, and it's guaranteed the dollar's inflating by like 20 to 25.
It's also like
Like
I think
what?
the reason why most people don't know about this is also because it's hard. Like the first time I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, it didn't actually make sense to me, and like I couldn't really wrap my head around.
Yeah,
it.
you just read the book and it was like,
Like,
okay,
buy
I'm
assets.
an entrepreneur. Yeah,
You don't spend money on liabilities, and that's kind of it.
yeah, same.
It's
I just
hard.
had-
It's a hard concept, especially to see it in action. So
Yeah, George told me, he was like, my biggest regret in 10 years will be that I didn't borrow more money in 2021. And I was like, dude, you're fucking right.
and it's already a regret of mine. And like I get offered loans and I'm like, I don't need them, but like,
Right.
why not? If I took that loan and just literally paid back payments, I would make money without investing any
Right,
of the money.
right.
I don't even need to do anything with it. If I just put it in the bank, pay them 3% payments every month, and just paid it off for 30 years, I would win big.
wow.
You know what I mean? Like that's why it has to inflate. Like that's how cheap money is to get right now. It doesn't make sense.
Right.
Anyways, Joel, like,
My story.
where are you from?
I was
high school?
actually thinking, how do I answer this question in a different way? Because you guys probably all get the same answers.
Not at all, bro. Every answer is different. But
Yeah.
remember, we're starting high school. Childhood even gets into like deeper shit. You know what I mean?
I think my journey of entrepreneurship starts with all my insecurities. I didn't really care about money, and even to this day, I really don't.
What's your family's background financially?
Entrepreneurs.
Okay.
So it was in the blood for
But
sure.
like entrepreneurs 10K a month or entrepreneurs $1 million a month. There's a, you know what I mean?
If you want me to answer that question, I have to go way back.
Okay. Go a little further back. I'm sure, you know.
Okay,
We can skim in the middle school years.
World War II. We're going back.
I remember Abraham Lincoln.
You ever heard of Adam and Eve?
World War II. Grandparents. God damn it! I should have just passed. World War II. My great grandparents escaped the war in Eastern Europe. They take a boat to Ellis Island, New York. They're trying to make it to Chicago,
Literally like the movies.
What country were they escaping from?
Poland.
Oh, wow.
And then they get to Ellis Island. The port is closed. They would open the port, close the port. So then they sent them to Mexico. So,
He's pulling our leg for sure, bro. This isn't a real story.
no, this is how I was born in Venezuela. It's all going to tie together.
Holy fuck, you were born in Venezuela?
Most people don't know that. I speak
Oh,
fluent
wow.
I'm
Spanish.
like trying to read JR's face. I'm like, is he laughing? Like, is he
No,
think he's trolling?
Nah, I just have a dumbass look on my face half the time.
Like, I have a Colombian passport. Like, all,
That's fucking crazy.
Wow.
So
Okay, keep going.
okay, so they get to Ellis Island. They say, no, we're not letting anyone in. Go to Mexico. Dirt poor, come from nothing. Great grandfather starts like a local store in Mexico, like just selling like everyday goods.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like the modern day gas station.
We have them in Lebanon. We call them Dickens in Arabic.
Okay.
But it's like it's like this big. And it's
Like a bodega kind of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like
It's kind of like a gas station without gas.
Yeah.
And then
So just a station.
it's called
Like a 7, like there's 7elevens with no gas.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
Like
It's a great
7-Eleven.
example.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Quickie Mart.
we don't
from
have to
The
get
Simpsons.
too deep, but
We can give a million examples.
and then there's a water park. Just kidding. There's no water park in my story, but let's see.
So anyways, he has this convenience store.
Yeah, and I think that's where my family first started entrepreneurship, and I think it was in our blood, right? We had to survive. Imagine they were the first foreigners in the town in Mexico. I don't know which town it was, but it was the first foreigners in a random town in Mexico. So imagine being in Mexico. You don't speak any Spanish, and you're the first foreigner. And they had to survive. So I think that's where my entrepreneurial journey in my blood truly started. My grandfather eventually migrates to Colombia. And my grandfather was a door-to-door salesman for home appliances. And he realized that he could actually manufacture the appliances that he was selling. So he started one of the first manufacturing companies in South America. And this was also during a time where taxes, talking Colombia, like Narcos era. So Pablo Escobar era of Colombia, where the law was very blurry and business was gray. So they were able to build a lot of wealth. And he started a manufacturing company for home appliances. They sold stoves, like, the stoves that you cook on.
Yeah.
Yeah, those.
As
familiar
opposed
with
to
those.
the ones that you sit on.
Correct. Exactly. Good point, JR. Thank you for chiming in. I'm still waiting for that compliment back to me, by the way.
You gotta get further along. You're still. He doesn't know your grandparents.
I told you guys, I warned you that we have to go way back.
For him to
But,
compliment.
you guys asked, I've actually never shared this ever about where my family's background comes from. Long story short, they built massive manufacturing company in Colombia. My father is one of the only 5 children who actually wants to go in and work.
Wait, how'd they go from Mexico to Colombia?
Father went
Did I
there.
miss that?
Grandfather moved.
Okay.
And I don't know
Door-to-door
why. I don't
sales.
know why. I'd have to ask my dad. But they get to Colombia, and again, he starts selling these goods, and he's like, "Oh, I can manufacture it." They start really small, and like manufacturing little pieces. Like, so maybe a stove, instead of manufacturing the whole stove, they just start manufacturing like the top piece. Then, obviously, little by little, they end up building like massive factory, massive manufacturing in Colombia. And that's, well, then my father starts going in, starts working, starts getting involved. I think he got that the entrepreneurial itch as well. And then he is a part of the business now. He's building it with my grandfather. Problem is that the drug era of Colombia gets so bad that my family is getting death threats. Like, and this was normal. This was not, like, if you watch Narcos on Netflix, I actually asked my dad the other day, was it really like that? He said it was exactly like that.
Damn.
Wow.
No exaggeration. Like, there's a story of one day where my grandfather got a death threat from someone in his company, and he had to literally go out publicly and make a massive statement in front of the whole factory. And because it was like that, you had to make a statement. Like, it's really like the shows.
Fear.
Yeah. It's wild.
So then my father moved to Venezuela and starts his set of companies. This is where he starts to branch away from the family business.
Mm-hmm.
Fast forward, I don't know how many years, but eventually he gets married to my mom. I'm born. My brother is born.
Is your mom Colombian?
Venezuelan.
Oh, Venezuelan. My bad.
And we don't know her past so deeply. And so we're in Venezuela, but the crime in Venezuela eventually becomes so bad. Like, when I grew up, I remember walking into my house 3 separate times and it's destroyed and robbed.
Wow.
Like, Venezuela, this is why I'm a capitalist, because I grew up in socialism. And I remember being in a car with my little brother in the back, my mom's driving. There's people trying to break into the car, shaking the car in the middle of the highway.
Wow.
No
That's
way.
that's how bad it is when the poor are stealing from the poor, from the wealthy, from the middle class, where it's an all-out war against one another. That's when you know it's bad. And then after the 3rd time that there was a break-in, my mom had the courage to say, we're getting out of here. We're going to figure out a way. So that's when we moved to the United States, and I am 10 years old at that, maybe 8. I'm in 3rd grade, so whatever age that is. Moved to the United States. I speak 0 English.
Really?
0. The only
Yeah.
reason I don't have an accent is because if you learn a second language before puberty hits, you have a much higher chance of not getting a thick accent.
Mm.
And I remember going to our house for the first time in the neighborhood, my mom goes, Joel, this is kind of like Disney.
That's amazing.
Like, just to put the contrast of like the reality of third world country and United States. And I remember they said something like, you can accomplish whatever you want in America. Now it's like all these little things building up where I'm seeing a huge contrast of like the opportunity in the US as a little kid versus South America. All this is starting to transform me. Then I get bullied a lot in school. Those first 3 years were miserable, probably the most traumatizing years of my life.
Because you didn't speak English and you were just like the new kid, or what?
Should I tell them the bee story? It'll be another,
Which one?
the bee sting. Did I tell you that one?
Yeah, you told me.
Should I tell that one?
Is it worth it?
Yeah, tell
Okay.
It's going to be a little, it's kind of like the water park where, but
We're going
all
down.
right,
This
is my luck. And by the way, I'm really grateful because it put a fuel in me to that darkness that Tim Grover talks about, wanting to win and prove yourself. It lit that in me, and I didn't see the benefit of it until many years later on. So I'm very grateful for these experiences because I chose to lean in and grow from them. But second week in school,
This is traumatizing.
imagine you're in a school with other third graders and you speak zero English. Okay? And you're sitting in class. This is a funny story. You guys can laugh, by the way, because it's also
So it's just one tear down the
I'm sitting in class and all of a sudden I feel this weird thing underneath my armpit. And it hurt so bad. And a bee had stung me in the middle of class. I couldn't get it out. So imagine me being a little kid like this in class, right? Eventually, I don't know what to do, so I take off my shirt. And I run out of at that point, I was like, I don't know what to do. I'm running out of here. So I run out of the classroom and I go to the bathroom, and then eventually I'm like, I have to go back. So then I was the Hispanic kid that like took off his shirt with no context, left, came back, and no one knew that it was a bee because I didn't speak any English. I couldn't explain it.
Oh, fuck.
Like, okay, cool. Like, so it was like I had to get my parents to like explain it. Like,
Fuck.
it was kind of crazy.
Wait,
but-
that was like the second day of school, you said, or
no, it was
something?
like a few weeks in.
Okay,
I don't remember
still.
like
You're
exactly.
still like the
when.
new kid that doesn't speak
Definitely
English.
still
and
the
then
new kid.
Yeah.
And those 3 years were traumatizing. Like I got
Damn.
bullied a lot. Like I remember there was one time where it was so bad that literally the teacher put us in a freaking circle and the kids were apologizing to me one by one.
Damn.
Wow.
And I was like, yo, teacher, like I remember thinking this lady is an idiot because this is more embarrassing. Like
Right.
this is not how you solve the problem.
Right. So true.
And I'd say like that was the beginning of me just wanting to prove myself. That's where I got really competitive in sports. That's where I got like I had this insecurity. And when I say, whoa, where does my journey of entrepreneurship start? I think it starts with all those insecurities. Because when I first started to build the business, I was trying to escape authority. I was trying to escape my lack of self-love. I was trying to escape these feelings of not being enough. And what happened is when I was 18, I started my DJing company. And we would DJ weddings and college parties. And I realized, well, I'm actually pretty good at this business thing. So all the things that I was insecure about were getting just fueled in a good way. It was like a drug. Like, oh, I'm the DJ at the party. I'm getting paid a few $100s a night at 18 years old. I feel enough. I feel confident. Everyone likes me. I feel love, right? So entrepreneurship became the connection to all the things that I lacked because of my childhood. And then I think obviously it went deeper. My family has been entrepreneurial. I think there's some of that genetic component. I think the fact of coming to America, like I was like, I need to make the most out of this. Like that was always there from a very young age. So I think all that came together to just make me like fall in love with entrepreneurship because I saw it as like a vehicle to fill a gap in my own identity. After the DJing company, started a software company in college, failed miserably. I was trying to become like the next Mark Zuckerberg. With zero software.
What kind of software?
Interest-based social media. It's called Maalouf. Mazoof. If you Google it, you'll still see the logo. But it's cool. Maalouf.
I had an account.
Yeah?
No.
I was going to say the same.
I was going to say, I don't know. Maybe I should have stuck to it. Shiny object syndrome.
He's like, you were one of our 10 users? Holy shit.
It's like mom, dad.
Nice to meet you.
Wow. A real life Mazoop user in the wild.
No, it was trash.
That's funny.
It was so trash.
You can't blame yourself,
I didn't even know that.
Shit like
I
that
didn't
was
even know
hot.
part.
I started that software company, and that's when I was like, I don't need to build the next Facebook. I need to stick to proven business models. So that's when I was like, the next business that I start later on is going to be something that I know I can succeed in. And I'm not like reinvent, like I'm not building a spaceship to go out into outer space for the first time, like, which obviously led me to the marketing agency years later. I was like, this is perfect. But after college, software company had failed. My dad.
You're in Pennsylvania?
Yeah, I'm in Pennsylvania now. I went to school in Philadelphia. And then
Our like journey was like 45 minutes from each other.
which is crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Huh. Wow.
And then I graduate. My dad's like, Joel, you should get a job for 2 years. And
What'd you graduate with?
what did I study?
Yeah.
Studied philosophy.
Okay. Oh yeah, we talked about this.
I was in business first, but again, the dark side, I was like, I know all this shit. I was like, this is stupid. This is a waste of time. Like, I remember thinking that. Like, there was an HR class where they spent an hour teaching us how to do a handshake.
No.
I was like, this is the
Oh, yeah.
biggest waste of
Plenty
fucking
of
time
those.
ever.
What?
Which low-key is why I took that degree. I was like, wait, I can.
Let's go. Piece of paper.
I'm
Here
like,
I come.
That's an easy one, right?
I was like,
there.
An hour about the handshake?
For sure.
and I was like,
Jesus Christ.
and I took a philosophy class, and it was actually extremely challenging. So it brought out the competitive side, and I just wanted to beat everyone in debate. And I was like, I'm gonna get really good at this. It's gonna help me with sales. It's gonna help me with.
You're a
business.
master debater?
I wouldn't say master. I think I'm
I just wanted to say master debater.
I'm too emotional to be a master debater. If someone can, one of the biggest weaknesses.
Nobody caught that, by the way.
What?
I just did actually. After
I didn't, but whatever.
I just wanted to say master debater. Anyways, continue.
I'm all right. Whatever.
You're a good debater.
You see what I'm talking about? Last time he the guy's crying on the show and he went up to pee.
Speaking of which, I'm
Here
just
you
kidding.
are in the same situation.
If this is you asking for a pee break,
No, it's not. I'm just being stupid.
I was a master debater.
I love it.
Okay. Where was I going with this? Now
You were saying you joined the debate team because you.
I didn't join the debate, but
Or,
anyways,
you wanted to
side.
be able to debate someone.
to be really good at
Not the
debate,
debate team, sorry.
you have to learn to detach your identity from your beliefs and your argument. And I'm too emotional to where if I feel something and I believe in it, like that's where someone can get me. You almost have to be extremely invested in your argument without having any emotional attachment to it. That's how you get really good. But long story short,
Like Ben Shapiro.
I think he cares about his.
Yeah, but he is a good debater though.
For someone who debates so much, I feel like he can.
He's really talented. He's
Yeah.
like one of the best in the
Yeah,
world. Like, don't get me wrong.
But you're right. I think he is emotionally attached for like.
But
a lot
imagine
of his
if he
but some he's
could
not,
imagine
for
if he
sure.
could make the other side. What if he could empathize with the other side and make them feel heard and seen, and then flip it around on them?
Yeah, you're right.
Totally.
He's like kind of ruthless about it.
Then it's like, wow.
That's how you actually convert someone. To
Correct.
Not just winning.
You're
but, like,
so
Exactly,
you're
exactly.
so
getting
right.
them to think.
In sales,
the same.
what do you do first? You build rapport. You find connection. You agree with them. Any client issues, what's the first thing that you do? Totally hear you on that. I completely understand. What I'm hearing is that you feel like we messed up with this, and that. Does that sound about right? Yes? Awesome. I'm really happy we're on the same page. Now you found alignment. Then you flip it. So, anyways, philosophy, graduate. Then my dad recommends that I get a job for 2 years. I go off, and this is my first. Well, actually, I've been working since I was 15. Like, my parents were like, Joel, you got to get a job where you're out of the house. Like during the summers, like I worked at the mall every single year. But this was my first experience with like a real boss and more of a corporate setting. And I had given this company my all. The first company that I joined, I believed in its mission so much, and I had given it my absolute all. And I don't want to say they screwed me over, but like they were really bad at leading and managing and taking care of their people. And that's when like that fired me of being an entrepreneur. I was like, I'm done with working for anyone ever again. I learned what I needed to. I'm moving on to the next thing. And then after taking a 6-month detour where I got another job just to like figure out what's next, during that whole 6 months, I was figuring out like, what am I building? And that's when I decided I've been doing marketing since I was 18, and I see an opportunity here, so I want to start a marketing agency. So that's how I got there. And then obviously there's a lot more of how I scaled it, but long story short, over 2 years, like the second year in, we profited over $1 million. And it was really hard. Like, don't get me wrong. I know that made it sound easy, but it was really hard. And it required a lot of talent. And it required the past 10 years that I put in, or not 10 years, but the past years that I had put in on other business ventures to get me to the point where I could actually be successful.
Yeah, I just want to point something out too. In the business world, I think people take $1 million of profit a year lightly now because of like how much we're exposed to. But like $1 million profit, like not revenue, profit, like mad respect. You know what I mean? Nuts. Like even in your fourth year, bro, honestly, like in the grand scheme of life and business, like in your fourth year, you were starting a digital marketing agency versus a tax company. You know what I mean? Like that's props, bro. You know what I mean?
Thanks, man. I worked really hard. I sacrificed a lot.
And how old were you at the time?
I think 24.
Wow.
12.
That's badass.
I'm Joel Kaplan.
Yeah, it was right after that 3rd grade incident. Just kidding. I said, fuck you guys. I'm going to become an entrepreneur. Let's see. I think like, so scaled the marketing agency. At that point, everyone says, oh, you did it in 2 years.
How many employees did you have?
To scale?
When you were like at $1 million, like how many people were on your team?
Okay, to build a 7-figure agency, you need 1 to 2 account managers, 1 CEO or COO, like one person leading the whole thing, 1 or 2 sales reps, 1 or 2 media buyers, and a bunch of virtual assistants. So I don't know exactly how many there were at that time, like, but it was around that.
Nice.
To get to 100K a month, that's kind of like the base. We scaled up. This is where I learned a lot. I managed 50 clients by myself. I did the account management. I've had clients run into me at the airport and tell me that I changed their life. I've also had clients call me and want to sue me. Like this is where I really just experienced the rawness of business in a model that isn't that sexy. Like I know marketing agency sounds sexy, but like it's like a done for you service. It's like
opinions are involved heavily as well, right?
Very.
It's a people. It's a people driven business. I learned a lot from it, and after 2 years, after a few years, I think maybe it was 3 years in, I had succeeded. I had, at that point, scaled to about $250K per month. So we had done more than $1 million, multiple times in revenue. And I was really frustrated with the coaching industry as a whole because I saw all these people that had low integrity. I saw all these people that had didn't have good intentions, and they were selling, and I still see it. Like I still see people that I'm like, dog, you haven't even hit 10K a month. What are you doing selling a program teaching people how to scale to 7 figures? Like it actually makes absolutely zero logical sense in any way, shape, or form. I still see it to this day. But I remember being like, I see an opportunity to change the space. And this is something that I feel passionate about. I feel called to.
And you're good at it.
Yes. And since I was young, I've always been told by a lot of people that I'm good at coaching, whether it was basketball or being in the gym with my friends. Like I was one of the first in our friends group to learn how to just lift. And then I remember getting everyone involved and getting them hyped up and getting them to commit. But this is something that I knew I wanted to do, and I was passionate about it. But most importantly, like my mission of starting the coaching company was a deep frustration with the entire industry. And I wanted to bring an energy that was real, that had integrity, and that actually got people results. So then now people are like, how do you get people such great results? Because I fucking did it before I taught it. Like I actually did it, and I've been real about it. The first thing I ever tell anyone in my program now when they join it, it's going to be really, 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 really hard. And if you're not all in, you should just quit. It's the first thing I tell everyone. And I think that's what led to the growth of our company. The best month we've had was $700K a month cash collected. That's just with one business. And
Put it on the table, Joel. Just put it all on the table.
what?
Pull it out.
Your dick.
You want to see it?
Should be on the
I mean,
table.
it's halfway out right now. You know, let it off. He's like one company, side job.
Again, the reason I say that, by the way, is because of frustration of other companies being like, yeah, we make $1 million a month. It's like, did you sell, like in
It's not
contracts?
cash collected. It's never
Did
cash
that
collected.
hit the bank account? If not, I really could care less.
Every number I've heard, I'm like, damn, no way. That's fucking amazing. And then like months later, talking to that person, they mentioned that it's not cash collected.
That's why I clarify.
I'm like, bro, what? Big difference.
Yeah, I think
Contracts, we're billionaires, you know what I mean?
Right.
Contracts, like,
you got contracts.
yeah. Cash collected, it's a much different story.
I'll wrap this up. I know I'm
Dude, you're
speaking
good.
a lot.
That's
We're
what-
here-
there's
we're
a
here to-
podcast.
This is what we're here for, man.
We're good.
But I do want to make one final point before I pass it off and we talk about theme parks and all that good stuff. But so I scaled that business. My plan is still to go all in. I think there's still a lot of opportunity to help a lot of people and change the game, where we can show up with real integrity, real results, and actually give a fuck. That's one of our other core values. Actually give a fuck. Like instead of thinking so much about how to make the money, it's like, how do we actually help the people? And I feel like that's very separate from a lot of other people in the coaching industry. And here's why. The coaching industry and the online entrepreneur industry breeds people in that have insecurities, just like me. They all have some deep insecurity, and that leads to sometimes making the wrong decisions. And I feel like over the past few years, I've done so much inner work to really heal all that trauma. So I feel like now I'm positioned as an individual to actually be able to change the game with my team, of course. So I started because of insecurities. I think now the reason I continue has nothing to do with, like, I love myself, and I tell myself, even if I don't succeed, if I don't ever hit 9 figures, I'm good. I actually don't care anymore. I used to really be like, if I don't hit it, I'm not good enough. Now I'm like, if I hit it, awesome. If I don't hit it, I still love myself. And I don't need, or at least I try as hard as possible not to need anyone's validation. And now the reason that I do business has to do with growth. I want to keep growing. Impact. I want to help people because I love the game. And that's it. So that's probably my journey. Full picture starting World War II.
That's crazy. You said you never shared your family's background before, publicly, I guess?
No,
you told
just
somebody.
I think for a long time, I was like, I want to create my own path and not be attached to that. And I also grew up in a very conflicted way, which also messed me up because my family had a lot, but they didn't give us anything. Like I had to work. Like I said, I worked at American Eagle since I was 15 years old at the mall. And I always knew like I needed to create my own path. And it was obviously hard because you're like, oh, if we have access to this wealth, why don't I get it? But I think it's taught me to be my own person, right? And maybe the reason why I haven't shared this is because I want to really create my own life. But
That's cool, man. Thanks for sharing.
Eddie
that.
asked me to be real,
Yeah.
so here I am.
Thanks for
Yeah,
sharing
no, I
that.
appreciate that. The commonality here between you guys, myself. I don't know if Andrew was this case. Actually, we've never discussed that, but we should. But like, kind of like an immigrant background of some sort. Like, I don't know how intense yours goes, but you're Dominican, right?
Yeah, both my parents were born in
But
Dominican
I'm more Hispanic
Okay,
than him.
so-
Let's put that on the record.
Yeah, facts, bro.
I look white.
Spit us some Spanish.
Hablo español perfectamente, ¿ok?
Oh, sí.
Well, see,
Cabrón sucio.
Yo no soy un cabrón sucio.
Cabrón sucio.
Hijo de puta.
They'll Google it.
but like, just really from a psychological standpoint of entrepreneurship, if you really think about it, because I've thought about this so many times, and quite frankly, my wife's probably even seen it. Like, once every like 3 months, I'll thank my dad for coming to America. Like because it really hits me. I'm like, thanks for like doing all that crazy ass shit that you had to do. Like, going to another country, not speaking a language, you can't just like get a job. You can't like put on a suit and go.
You don't
somewhere.
we think business is hard. Like, that is hard.
That's next level, bro. It's like you actually are back against the wall every day for like the first few years of your life,
And
at least.
What makes it even harder is not I don't think it's actually the practical things. It's more the emotional aspect of having to leave your identity.
Your family.
You have to
your
part ways with
friends.
yourself,
Totally.
with who you are.
You're right.
It's crazy.
And so that was a common background trait because, you know, even for me growing up, I never saw my dad at a corporate job of any sort. And I know Andrew's dad also like has his own businesses as well. And so seeing that and seeing him from a kid being like, we can't really afford to get anything, to like being a teenager and being like, wait, my family's actually rich as fuck and I didn't find out till now. You know what I mean? Like, like how life changed over 15 years of him doing that. Like, I've never, like, my dad barely wants to wear a suit in general. Like, my mom forces him to like look good. You know what I mean? Like, he just doesn't care. And so growing up with that, like, I just thought that was like completely normal. You know what I mean? Like, I never even went to college thinking like, I can't wait to go and then like work for a big 5 firm, top 5. You know what I mean? I was like, okay, I'm going to go be an orthopedic surgeon, for example. But I didn't think like at this hospital, like it didn't get that far in my head. I'm like, I'm going to be an orthopedic surgeon. I'm going to help other people. That, you know, in my head, I'm going to graduate and I'm going to go out there and be like, this is what I do now. Come and I will help you. You know what I mean?
That's actually such a good point. So many people graduate with degrees where they don't really realize that actually they're going to have to run their own business and they don't know shit about business.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to be a doctor. It's like, I'm going to open my own practice. Like, well, what does that actually mean? Like, you've got to run a business and you got to do marketing and you got to.
Here's how to shake hands.
Like,
Let's go over it for the next hour.
literally, bro. Literally. But that is wild. And I think also a lot of people don't like think about it that far. Like, they're like, yeah, I'm going to go be this. And then they graduate and they're like, wait, why am I not this? Like,
What's crazy is that
doesn't
even
just
business
happen.
school doesn't teach you business. That's what's just like messed up.
They really are kind of teaching you to be like an employee of a business, huh?
So now I get why I fuck with you a lot. We're very similar, actually.
Yeah.
We're almost the exact same background. Like, long story short, for me, dad moved to America without mom, figured out shit here, went to school, but worked at the same time, got a degree, didn't use it, but like worked in flooring, moved mom over here eventually, started a flooring company, saved up everything, saw the concept of a water park. So went from nicer country to slightly less nice country that, you know, that they could bring an opportunity to, right? Like in your case, they brought opportunities there that weren't there because they saw them elsewhere. And so he's like, this concept is sick. It doesn't exist. Let's make it. So they sold everything they have. My mom sold her wedding ring. Like, that's how deep it got. And then they
Damn, I
borrowed
didn't know
10
that.
grand from a friend. Yeah, they sold their cars, like everything. They're
And
like,
it started with like a kiddie pool and like one of those little slides.
bro, basically. It started with a wave pool, a river that goes around the wave pool, and
Now I feel like an asshole, by the way, because I kept
What?
making fun of this water park.
no,
it's
it's
cool.
sick. It's a really cool
That
thing.
was like foundational to
It
your
still
entire
exists.
family.
Bro, it was the #1 water park in the Middle East. Like, it's nothing like Dubai didn't have a water park in, you know what I mean? Like,
Wow.
this was that long. Like, we're talking like 1999. Like, Dubai didn't exist. Like, it was just fucking desert. There wasn't buildings and shit. So like in Lebanon, it was like the only water park in the whole Middle East. So people would fly
Is this the
in.
one you guys went to in your videos? Like,
Yes.
I've seen you on Instagram.
Yes,
That's awesome.
Yeah. So it's crazy. Best performing ad to this day is me and my wife on a selfie video down a slide.
That's the one. Yeah.
Fucking
That's
nuts.
awesome.
So much money. But anyway, so growing up, I saw that, and that's like, that was what shifted me to now. But here's the part I think that loops it all together is like, they started so many successful businesses, all 7-figure businesses. If we're talking over the course of time, all multi 8-figure businesses, right? And I learned from all of them. I grew them all and contributed in my own way, but I never tied it to my identity, and I separated myself, and I was like, this is a ceiling for me, and I can't have a ceiling. And I moved off it, and I was like, this can't be me. Like, I have to go figure it out myself. I have the skills. Let me go apply them elsewhere. And through marketing, long story short, through marketing those businesses and literally I'm talking, if I put my hand in any of them, they doubled in a year every time. And at the scale that they were at, like, my family had hit ceilings for years, plateau. Someone else coming in being like, let me type some shit on a computer, or let me change some processes of paper on the ground, and the business does double the amount of profit is like actually fucking next level, you know, as like a 18-year-old kid. It's like, so I had that, and then I was like, okay, but I can't attach myself to this because it's not really mine. You know what I mean? At the core of its existence, it's not mine.
I know
like,
exactly what you mean.
I didn't start it. And for me, that's what I needed for myself. Like, my parents, bro, I got into law school, got a scholarship, declined. Like, there were so many, like, remember, like, graduated, didn't do anything. Like, they actually, at one point, my mom told me she actually thought there was no chance. She was like, fuck, he's fucked. Like, he actually is not going to do anything in life.
And then and then she saw Addison, and she was like,
even worse. My brother's
Whoa.
a video gamer, professional. Like, makes multi 6 figures playing video games.
We've probably both stressed our mothers out quite a bit.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Like, the other day I came home and I was like, I was trying to convince my 17-year-old brother who's not 18 to go get a tattoo with me and our other brother illegally. I was like, come on. And my mom was like, please, Joel, please do not do this. Sorry. And I found a place that would let us do this illegally too. And my mom was like, please don't. Anyways, we
Like,
probably
what could she do at that
both stressed our mothers out quite
did you
a
get the
bit.
tattoo?
Not yet. My brother said, let's wait till I'm 18.
Okay.
So it's fair.
It's funny how he had to be like the reasonable one.
Right.
The 17-year-old.
Joe's like, let's do it. He's like, Joe, I don't think you should be advising me this. Right
He's
now.
like, he's like, this is my first chance to step in and use my maturity.
yeah.
My newfound maturity.
Yeah.
That's funny.
That's a really cool background, bro. And you're, I guess, pre background, your parents were foreign or no? Like born in DR?
Dude, my mom came here like at like 18 years old, and from Dominican Republic. My dad, I don't even really fully know his story. I didn't meet my biological father till I was 8 years old.
Wow.
And yeah, so there's still a lot of like gray area there. But my mom came over to Houston, and then every immigrant's like, you got to go to New York City. Like, if you're not in New York City, the whole country's New York City. So
Yeah.
everybody thinks you're already there as soon as you step foot on American soil. So to like not actually be in New York City was like a disappointment. So she was in Houston and is like, I need to go to New York City. And then makes enough money just to get like the flight. But like, I guess at the time you just do shit and then you just show up there and figure it out. So made enough money for the flight, got to New York City, and then like found like somebody was like at like her job was like, hey, when you get to New York City, like go to this address and find this person and tell them you know me and they'll let you stay there or whatever. That's just
Sounds
how,
like some Bible shit.
yeah.
You know, like, ride a camel 9 days and
Yeah.
talk to this person. He will let you sleep in his bed for one night.
Yeah. So yeah, and then she actually when she got to the US, she was pregnant and didn't know. So then but with my sister. My sister's 9 years older than me. So yeah, and then when my sister was born, she like sent her to Dominican Republic to like live with my grandma and shit. So my mom was like a waitress pretty much my whole life until I was like 16. Then she was like she like got her CDL and like started driving trucks and shit. So it was always just like we just rode the struggle bus for a while, like single mother my entire life. And I just saw like a up close example of like working hard, but I always felt like she worked so hard and like just spun her wheels my whole life. So I was always like, man, I don't want to be that way. Like I want my hard work to mean something and have something to show for it. And I think that's part of the reason why I love real estate now, because you do all this work to get a building and then it's just there forever. And it's always like a symbol of like, oh, fuck, like I remember the story of how I found that and how I negotiated it and how much it cost and all this stuff. So I think that from her, I always learned like how to work hard, and she never really like complained. So she just like got up and just fucking grinded every day. And I also learned, I definitely would say I learned like unconditional love because, dude, my mom loved me so much at such a young age. And
Maybe this is also why you had so much confidence.
Yeah, my entire life, she kind of was like...
Mothers instill confidence, not fathers. I 100% believe that.
Yeah.
Yeah, she like always like spoke life into me. Like she was always like, oh, you can do, whatever you want to do and you're super smart and you can figure things out. And she was always like very positive. And but most of my childhood growing up, I came home from school and she wasn't there. She would work at like 3 to 11. So I would get up and go to school by myself. Like I walked to school since I was 5 years old. And then, I took the bus and shit. But I would get up, go to school. She would like get me up. I'd go to school and everything. But by the time I came home, she would have just left to work. And then by the time she got home, I was typically sleeping or like about to go to sleep. So for the most part, like I raised myself for a long period of time. So a lot of things that like you learn from, like I remember my first time like tying a tie. Like, did your dad teach you how to tie a tie?
Yes.
Your dad?
I think
like
so.
I didn't remember.
I'm pretty sure my dad.
I only
taught
remembered
me.
how to tie a tie because I went to private school and I had to wear a tie.
Right. So I went to a charter school, and I remember my first day of school there. I brought the tie to school untied.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have anybody to teach me, and my mom.
And there's no YouTube and shit.
Yeah, and my mom had never like needed to tie a tie.
Yeah, yeah.
So the principal like tied the tie for me.
That's
and
nice.
he didn't even teach me, so I was so scared that like to untie
You
it.
never untied it.
I never untied it. I was so scared to untie
That's
it.
actually really funny.
But growing up,
And then a bee flew under your shirt one day, and you had to untie it.
but I
Bee
think
changed my life, man. I'm grateful.
Dude, for real. That's
I
fucking
think
awesome.
though that there was a ton of value in that because like
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like, it seems like a pattern. All the greatest things that have happened to us stem from pain and then us leaning into the painful moment. And I think anyone that isn't as successful, it's because when the pain showed up, they
Sheltered.
they pulled back instead of leaning in.
Like COVID.
Yeah.
Dude, so
Talk
true.
about like shifting the world based on what people's responses are. Like COVID.
Crazy.
Like that was probably the most mass scale world shift I've ever seen. Like I think we'll ever see in our whole life.
Or
We'll-
maybe
we'll
it's been
definitely be
maybe it's
talking
been
about
happening though. Don't you think?
What?
Like these crazy, the world's gonna end. Like
No, not the world's gonna end. I just mean like something that economically, socially, physically, mentally
Like a
affected,
historical event.
like actually like shifted. Like rich
So
people
many
became
things.
poor people became rich people. Like life
It accelerated like so much online shit, like 20 years in
Yeah,
one
exactly,
year. Like
and-
a bunch of stuff that like was bound to happen, but just like hadn't happened yet.
Exactly.
Like remote work and shit
and
like
the people that leaned in came out on top.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember the day they announced it. I met with everyone. I was like, I'm taking over sales. We're shifting everything. Here's what we're focusing on. This is the type of businesses that are open because everything's closed. And that's the only way we survive. And
Shifted more to e-com.
this was even like we had e-com clients, but like we weren't like, okay, let's go into e-com. I don't know why we didn't even think that, right? Because okay, we're still trying to duplicate like an Atlas Digital type copy paste cookie cutter, right? So like we made our cookie cutter already. So we're like,
But then why would people be? It was car detailing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So why would people even care about that during?
No,
COVID?
it's not car detailing. It's one, you'd be surprised actually. But two, it was like wheel repair,
Window
and so-
tinting.
Yeah,
shit like
things
that.
like you'd be
PPF.
surprised people sitting at home who don't leave, like they just want to do something to their car sometimes. Regardless, my main point was like these were the businesses that were open still. It was like that or like a chiropractor or a doctor, and like this is not things we had experience in. Regardless, that meeting on that couch in that room, which like none of us will ever forget, we were like, okay, everything's shut down. We're either fucked in 10 days because the businesses we were focusing on were shut down for a long time for sure, or we shifted, and then we created the same amount of cash flow within 30 days that we had that time.
Yeah, this is when we launched a performance-based offer for the first time. It's like only pay when we get results, and we were still able to get clients through COVID. It was kind of crazy.
You actually knocked it out the park through COVID, right? You scaled, you rode
Yeah,
the
our business
COVID
hit
wave.
its peak.
Yeah.
Wow.
As did a lot of businesses.
If you flip the stock market upside down, it also reached a peak.
Yeah.
But the world's brainwashed to think there was no opportunity in that.
Right? There's always
Yeah, you know what I learned?
Shit.
What I learned next time there's blood on the streets, as I think Charlie Munger or Warren Buffett says, I forget which one says that. I'm going to go even harder.
Yeah.
I think like I definitely went in, but I didn't go all in. I was still kind of
Well, you thought
Because
you were
there's
all
fear.
in.
Because you're always like wondering where the bottom really is too. It's like, shit, I could get in now and it could fucking go even farther down. But I mean, everyone looking back is like, damn, I should have thrown everything in or whatever.
But if you listen to like the wealthiest people in the world, like the wealthiest, like the Warren Buffetts, they always say like the largest transfers of wealth happen during times of extreme uncertainty, but you also have to be willing to go all in during those moments.
Well, it's basic economics, right? We all learn this, supply and demand, like of anything.
Well, I didn't go, you went to business school.
But I mean, on a basic level, supply and demand.
you just learned how to handshake.
If everyone's scared, there's no demand, but there's the same supply. Cost is going to go down to whatever the fuck it is at any time. You know what I mean? As simple as fucking lumber. You know what I mean? Lumber not being used because no one's building. Okay, now everyone's building. Lumber's fucking quadruple the price. You know what I mean? Like on a very basic level, if you operate like that on an investment level, I think you will win most of the time.
Yeah, like even if I was telling you earlier today, even if we had just put all of our money into the S&P 500, which was going to be safe in the long run anyways, it's probably going to happen that it's going to be safe as long as the economy survives, which I believe it will.
It's America.
Yeah, because
as long as inflation is a thing,
people,
S&P 500 should be fine.
humans need to survive, and
even cryptocurrencies and dollars at the end of the day. Like we're looking at it, we're like, how many dollars is this worth? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, and I think like even if we had put our money into the S&P 500, it would have doubled by now. Doubled.
You're saying at the height of COVID?
Yeah, during March.
Yeah, for sure.
I think it was at like, I mean, I have to check.
Bitcoin was at 3K in March, bro. What?
Crazy.
Yeah.
Is it what?
3K.
In March.
Yeah, let that rattle your brain for a second. Like imagine a 20x return.
Eddie,
in
can
a
you make
year.
it go to 100K?
Can I make it go to 100K?
I got to ask.
Hey, everyone listening, just pump it up a little bit right now. You know what I mean?
One simple word.
Yeah.
Pump.
You get a letter from the FTC.
Right? For like rigging the market.
We're not talking stocks. We are talking crypto. Pump.
We're talking about lifting weights.
Yes, indeed.
So you guys are all in on real estate now? That's the thing?
Look,
Yeah.
my belief, you asked earlier, like, should you invest in crypto or stocks or whatever? It's like, look, the thing that you need to invest in is your business and yourself, because that's where you have the most control. Control equals opportunity and minimizes risk. So everyone's like, where should I invest my money? In yourself first. But once you've maxed that out based on your business model, then you start to figure out, how can I invest into other things? So our vision was like, let's partner with JR. So JR brings who he is, again, his character, to the table to figure out how to make this business explode. And we still have control through him. So it's like the next layer. And I think that's like, now our vision is like, how do we grow our company as much as possible and then pass it into real estate? But it's not some random real estate that I don't know. It's me trusting JR, who I've known for years, just like you trust your team members.
Yeah, and the other thing about how we have this set up is in our operating agreement, it says like JR is the managing member. He makes pretty much all the day-to-day decisions.
Yeah.
Joel, give him the address of one of our rental properties.
I don't know.
Exactly. So
No, that's
how it
serious.
should be.
but exactly.
Yeah,
but that's
yeah,
how
yeah.
it should be, right?
But JR is someone that I know. So if something happens, one call away. It's not like some random fund that I have no idea who's managing
Yeah.
it. So it's like, my whole belief is invest into yourself first. If you run a real estate business, then invest into your real estate business. If you're a hedge fund, then yeah, invest into stocks because that's your business.
Invest in yourself is like really underrated, by the way. I just want to elaborate on that. Like that is what makes everyone at this table who they are, is investing in themselves.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, even if it's through like leveraging debt for a tax business, that's your business, which is you at that point. You are an LLC, you're paying the entire taxes, like it's you. You know what I mean? It's just a fucking ID number. That's all it is. Like that is so powerful. And people come to me and they're like, how can I make more money? Like even people like who work in the company, I'm like, just become a more valuable person. Like,
Yes.
I have, what like, it's pretty simple. AB.
I have a fundamental belief that to get an ROI on something, don't you have to invest in it first? Therefore,
Yeah.
if you want to get an ROI on yourself, you first must invest into yourself,
That's a good point.
whether it's time or money, but it has to be one or the other. Yet most people are like, well, I don't want to work, or I don't want to put money down.
If you do both, that's when it happens.
So it's like, how do you get the
Yes.
biggest ROI on yourself? Like, you first have to make the investment. It doesn't just out of thin air.
Yeah.
That being said, I did a list of the 10 reasons why I think real estate's the best investment the other day on
Nice.
my Instagram. And it was interesting because it wasn't like I had these all written out. I was just kind of like, somebody asked me like, oh, why don't you like do this or do that or this other thing? And I started like writing a story about it, and then it became like 10 things. And I was like, oh, fuck, like I haven't even thought of the majority of these things before. But it is something that differentiates real estate. So an example of one of these things, and we can like go super deep, but if you've ever read the book, highly recommend 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel. So in 0
He
to 1,
studied philosophy, by the way.
founder of co-founder of founder of PayPal. Elon Musk they were doing the same thing, and they ended up merging. But they merged, and essentially
Chose
they
PayPal.
they were down the street from each other competing, and then they were like, hey, it makes more sense for us to join forces. So anyways, in that book he says that he's like, how did PayPal get this crazy like valuation, and how do we get this crazy exit? How is LinkedIn worth $150 billion or whatever crazy number when their revenue is like 20 million a year or whatever at the time? And he talks about how every business has a life cycle. So every business is like a sun, like it has a start date and a definitive end date, right? So he's like, every business eventually ceases to exist. So he says the reason why PayPal got such a high valuation is because 70% of the revenue that PayPal is going to make is post 2020. So by their estimates, and that's how it was valuated, right? So same with LinkedIn. So by that logic, every stock that you buy is eventually going to be worth zero.
Yes, imagine if we invested into Toys R Us or some random company that was very successful.
Hurts.
Yeah.
Right.
Definitely hurts.
So you see it like out of all the companies on the S&P 500, I think only 5 were there 50 years ago or something.
That's fucking nuts, bro.
right. It could be 100 years,
wild.
but it's something crazy like that.
No, but
right?
you're right, because it was the rise of, back in the day, it was like
Industrial
oil
age,
companies,
yeah.
industrial shit, and now it's all technology companies, Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, Facebook, that shit.
Right. So if you're like, I'm going to buy a stock, I'm going to buy Apple and hold it forever. Eventually it's going to be worth zero, whether it's in your lifetime, your kid's lifetime, whatever.
Eventually.
There's
Very good
never
point.
been a point in history where real estate has been
drops to
worth
zero.
zero. At the bare minimum, it's been replacement value,
That's
right?
some
And
deep ass shit.
So just to clarify, when I say invest in yourself, it's really just first, because I see a lot of
Of
people that are
course.
like, they're not even at 10K a month with their business, and they're like, well, I need to do real estate. It's
Bro,
like,
at the end of the day, one thing that we'll
Just to
always
clarify.
have
Good
is
point.
time. Like as we grow, right? We're using time. We're always using time. So like,
It's the
why
only
not?
true scarce
Back to the
resource.
sharpen axe thing with Abraham Lincoln or whatever. Like, at the end of the day, why wouldn't you spend as much money and time early on in your life investing in yourself so that your hour forever is worth more? You know what I mean? The sooner you can do that, the more expensive your hour gets, and the more hours you'll have to use that number.
let me ask you something, Eddie. How do you invest in yourself now? What I've realized that the farther up we go, the harder it is, and I'm having to like get creative.
Relationships. I spend money to earn relationships, and that's. I mean, dude, I pay for conferences just to go and talk to someone specifically to open up a relationship, and I don't even give a fuck about what's in the conference, to be honest.
right.
I'm gonna drop $30,000 on this conference because
Just
I'm
to
gonna go
talk.
start this relationship.
That's why like the VIP seats
But how do
are
you-
always worth it.
But how do you
Always.
make?
You know why?
This one's
because I've invested so much to get to this point in myself that it doesn't matter what I make. If this person is on the level that I think they're at, then they will respect the level that I am on intellectually in the conversations that we're having, and we will open an active relationship together. You get what I'm saying? So if sometimes, bro, I go to the conference, I'm like, this is not the person I thought
And
it
as-
was,
as this-
and I'm not interested anymore. At the end of the day, you know what I mean?
What's fascinating? I was just talking to Alex Ramosi.
I want to loop back to that though. Go ahead.
I was just talking to Alex Ramosi the other day. He said the number one scale of the CEO, even in the best companies in the world, like the Apples of the world, they're pickers. They're people pickers. So maybe you're right. The higher up you go, your main investment is how do I surround myself with other A players instead of how do I level myself up even more? Because it's probably has diminishing. Like there's not much more you can learn about Facebook ads. Like maybe there is, but like it's like maybe from 9 out of 10 to like 9.2.
Like an hour a month worth of time, maybe.
Because like you said, you know, it's like the only way you can really grow that. You know, you're measuring it kind of like in hours. If you can have like a exceptional team, their hours are worth, you know, a ton too. And like you can have one killer person. You're picking that one person that's worth way more hours than like 10 other people's hours. You know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like that's an
100%,
interesting
bro.
point.
Look at your brother, bro. Your brother was in Google, and I made a decision against everyone saying no in the entire company, and I said we're moving him to emails. And look at your fucking brother.
He's killing in emails.
He fucking loves it. He's a fucking god at it. He's actually amazing. Like it's not even comparable. Yeah. And everyone said no. Even your brother was like, well, I mean, I'll give it a shot. I'll fuck around with it. You know what I mean? Like 2 months later, he's like, this is the best thing ever. We're building a team. It's like, it's like on another level.
Cool.
You know what I mean? 100%.
Yeah, maybe the return on investing back into yourself kind of caps out. So it's like, how do you invest into yourself to then invest into others? I don't know if that makes sense, but
100%. No, it's like
surrounding yourself,
multiplying everyone's time.
Yeah, instead of like trying to figure out like how can I meet this guy, it's like how do you become the guy that guy wants to actually meet? You know?
Ooh,
exactly.
yeah, you just gave me a hot
That's a good
moment.
way to put it. That's what I was trying to say with all that fucking talking I did.
Yeah, you know what? How much do you invest into your team? Like getting them training and like this.
I just spent $15,000 on a training for my team for 2 people.
I got to do better at that.
I looked him in the face.
I'm making a. I don't know which camera. I'm making a public statement. I'm going to be investing more into my team
all the time.
I love it.
It's like you don't think about that. At least I don't. So that's just good.
Actually, now that I think about it, we invested so much the last 30 days into like people. Like we had people on our team without telling us go buy tickets to a conference to get better at the job that they're doing. And they didn't even tell us. And then we found out and we're like, oh, we're covering this trip. Like we appreciate you even thinking to invest in yourself because you're investing in the company. And like you deserve that for the thinking that you even had there. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
that's really cool.
Like we actually spent a fuck ton of shit.
Yeah, because then maybe investing in yourself, like the network, but then it's like, how do you invest into people?
Yeah, and even the conference that we went to a couple weeks ago, like you
Diego.
could have gone by yourself, but you brought me and Fredo, like
which was like an extra $12,000 net on the trip.
literally because it's extra flights. I mean,
when I could have
extra
taken
Airbnb,
notes and brought it back, but that's not the purpose.
Yeah,
Like Andrew grew as an
You
individual.
weren't going to
Fredo
take
grew as
notes,
an
were you?
I'm not taking notes.
That's what I thought.
Which is why they can't. I'm just kidding.
I took pretty good notes.
No, but how I
To
looked
be
at
fair
it.
though, I feel like a lot of times when you take a lot of notes, you tend to just like remember them better because you took them down, but you're not like
bro.
reviewing them a
From
ton
the
of
first
times.
event I ever went to, which is JR's event, by the way, I was
No
like,
way, that was your first?
I was like,
That's sick.
2018, yeah.
I was like, all the successful people aren't learning; they're just talking to each other. So that's what I did, and I just networked the whole time. And then after that, I stopped. Anytime I go to an event, like I just went to an event in Dallas, and my team was pissed that I didn't sit in on any of the sessions. And I was like, guys, I met the 3 people that we needed to meet, and that's it.
Oh yeah, I was there, and I was even like, "Yo, I want to fucking watch." Like Joel's like, "All right, well, I'm leaving." I'm like, "Dude, this is a doper. Like, let's watch." He's like, "No."
I'm like both. I'm like a blend.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, my team thinks I'm fucking a psychopath. I'm like, I'm gonna pay $50,000 to go to this 1-day event, and I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna get this guy to want to work with us. And they're like, okay, lunatic. It's so funny when it's so funny. People that like started like in January, so like we're in August now. They would like think I'm actually a nut job when I would say shit like that. Like this person that they're like, I've idolized my whole life. Eddie's gonna go like become friends with him in a day. Like, yeah, right. And then I'll come back and I'm like, what's up? Look at who that is. And now
That's
they're
cool.
like, now
It's like text being like, when should I buy my flight to come visit?
but it shows how much like conviction actually
yeah.
plays a role in this, like in the confidence to have those conversations and who I've developed myself to be. I'm no one at the end of the day, you know what I mean? But like just the investment I put in myself reflects into those relationships. But now the people who have been here, when we hire someone new, they're like, by the way, if Eddie says he's going to do something, it's going to happen. Like you're going to think it's kind of fucking crazy, but like,
That's cool.
if he says it, we're actually doing it. So now I'll show them something. I'll be like, this is where we're going to be in 6 months. And everyone unanimously, no questions asked, 100%. Everyone full confidence. You know what I mean? And so that's slowly developing. Now the leadership is on that level too. Now they're like, oh, if we say something, we're doing it. And so that confidence trickling down has all built up from that same concept.
Do you feel like that you practice that in your day-to-day life on a small scale? Like if you're like,
Yeah, he's been doing
baby,
it
I'm going to
since
take out the trash. Like
Maybe
100%, 10 out of 10, the trash gets taken out.
Yes, maybe not in this moment, but if I said today, it's getting done today.
Right.
That's probably the best way.
So
to put it.
you think
Yeah,
that
but-
doing it at the
well,
small scale.
I'm like, in 5 minutes
I think
kinda
that's
guy.
yeah, but I think that's a bad. I think
Terry's like, there was that one time. No, I'm just kidding.
I think the problem with that example is that you might not assign value to that. So even if you say you're going to do it, if it's not a valuable task, it's like
that's
not
a fair point.
That's
too.
not the one.
But I
that-
feel like those tasks train
I
you to just
disagree.
be consistent with
that's
your
like
word.
that's like saying I'm going to go through like someone said the other day. Oh, you should just do a huge marathon just to go through the pain and prove to yourself that you're willing to do it. I'm like, I already do that on a consistent basis. I don't need to go do a marathon to tell myself that I'm going through the pain.
Yeah.
But you know what? You told me that you played sports in high school. You probably have been saying you're going to do something and doing it for a long time with the things that matter to you, which is important.
Yeah, which was part of that whole family business type thing, because I was like, whoa, I said it to my entire family, uncles, parents, like I can't be the guy in the family that says shit and doesn't do it because I know those guys and I don't want to be them. You know what I mean? And so that trained me. You wanted me to loop back about the paying to go and meet someone. For example.
So Alex Ramosi had a video recently about how to judge like who you should listen to, and it's like he has all these like points. So it's like contract value, and then he like has it covered up, and he's like no, and then he's like revenue, and then he's like no, and then he goes down the line, and it's like each one gets more and more closer to the truth, to where he's like net worth is what actually matters, and that's how you should judge who you listen to. So like I saw the Warren Buffett on the flight over here today. I watched the Warren Buffett documentary, and I was like, fuck, like this guy, I need to like look up more of what he says. So how often have you met somebody in person and you're like, oh fuck, like this isn't who I thought it was, once you really like dig into their stories and their numbers?
50%.
Really?
50%?
Yeah.
That's sad.
On a deep level, not on a surface, on a deep level. Like,
Wow.
like I'm talking like marriage, like that kind of level, not like, oh, this person's who I thought it'd be. Like marriage, profit, like relationship with kids, like deeper level stuff. Like in my head, I assume people externally, I'm like, fuck, they're so perfect. Like
if they've got this figured out, they must have this.
if I could just attain that.
But do you think anyone has
wholesome.
Yo, it's like when Drake says meeting your heroes is like seeing how magic works.
Exactly. Now I sit in a room and I look at the people that I used to like idolize, even
They're all
20
people.
months ago, 24 months ago, and I'm like, they're people, and most of these people would actually rather be me than me be them,
And
because of
everyone's
these
flawed.
other things that are happening in their life.
Yeah, maybe I accepted at a young age that everyone is flawed, including myself. That it's like, I always was like admiring people that were more successful and respecting and inspired by, but I never thought like they're perfect.
But how much does money play a role into your like wanting to talk to people? Like I used to go and be like, this guy makes a lot of money, I want to meet him and become friends. Now
Depends on their values. Now.
exactly. So that's how I am. Like now someone will introduce me, be like, bro, this guy makes like 40 mil a year. 3 years ago, I would be like, oh my God, I need to become friends and hit him. Now I blew him off to like take a video of my wife, example, like in the intro, because I'm like, I really didn't like this person right from the get go. Like, I'm sorry, man. Yeah, I'll get back to you. Like, I gotta give some time to my wife right now. I don't really get to see her much. You know what I mean? Like, just the difference of value of like, I don't care if you make money. It's the character and the person that you are, and I don't give a fuck about the money, honestly,
That's
because
cool.
everyone makes money, bro.
That's one of my sayings is don't judge people based on their accomplishments, judge them based on their character. And of course accomplishments matter, but you have to start with character. Like if you're a bad person, I don't care if you make all the money in the world. I don't really care to associate myself with you. And obviously accomplishments matter. That's not what I'm saying. But first is character. Are you a good person?
Yeah, dude. I actually had this conversation with my brother last night about something, because we were talking about just people in general that are, you know, he was talking about this one guy, and he was like, this guy, he makes this much, you know, he makes this much, he works, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, but also this guy, like, also for sure, just by knowing who he is, I'm like, he also doesn't sleep. He's not, like working out. He doesn't take care of his body. Like he's solely just focused on like making money and like that's it. And I'm like granted, yeah, that's a great goal and you'll probably do that and be comfortable later, but you'll be like deeply unfulfilled on so many other levels that I'm like, I don't really even care, because it's like, yeah, I guess if you're spending like every waking hour just 100% focused on money, of course you're making a lot more money than I am,
Question: Why did you work with me?
I saw the opportunity of not just what was happening, but what we could create together. Because I had basically like what you pitched for the vision of like what 4Media could and would be.
Mm-hmm.
That was like what attracted me the most, because I saw that we would make a really good team, because I could do all these things that you couldn't do at the time, and you couldn't do things that I couldn't do, you could do, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
And so I saw like I ultimately wanted to be a part of an agency where I could grow and build something that I'd wanted to build for myself, but I didn't have the right team in place, and I was trying to do it alone. And I realized that we could partner and make something amazing. So
I recruited this guy like on a subconscious level, not actively like, hey, work with me, bro. Like, but like
cool.
For fucking like 5 years at least. I was like, you're too fucking talented. He would make shit, bro, and I'd comment on everything. I'm like,
you did actually. You're always hyping me up. It's funny too, because I also definitely had imposter syndrome, because like I never it's hard to put a value on like stuff where people can be objectively like that's good or that's bad. It's like with certain things, it's like, did it make money or did it not? But like with content and stuff like that, it's like, it's a little bit more nuanced and a little bit more different. So it's like, I would always be comparing myself to the best of the best people, but I didn't realize that I was already like better than 90% of people on the planet. You know what I mean? So it's like, I didn't think of it that way. And then, once the time was right, it just worked out. It's perfect.
Well, it was a good decision, clearly.
Dude, for sure.
So
my old business partner, and we parted ways on a good note, but he just moved and stuff, and he messaged me recently. It was like, dude, I'm like really proud of you. Like on a real level. I'm on a real level. Like it seems like you actually took like what we were doing together and leveled it up, and like just have, you've crashed through that glass ceiling, and like you're in the right place. And I was like, thanks, man. That means a lot.
That's really cool.
That's fire. So question for you guys. Let's put an end to this, because I have a feeling in the future we'll have a second episode where we take things deeper now that everyone knows who you are and we know each other. If you each had to give someone a fortune cookie with like one sentence on it that you would give them a piece of advice, let's assume they're in their like mid-20s figuring out life, one piece of advice on a fortune cookie, what would each of you give?
I asked JR this question on his birthday because I was making a video for him, and he gave a very like
JR answer.
Just like not the kind of answer you'd want on this. It's like like a very degenerate answer.
Well, what's your answer? What's your answer?
I was like, so please,
we need some context around that.
Give a legit answer, please.
I want to hear the degenerate answer though.
So for my birthday, just to give context,
I was like trying to do something so sentimental for his birthday, and he was like, yeah,
Joel got all my closest friends in the world together, and they made a video, and it was like the documentary of like, who is JR and what do I mean to them and stuff. And then they threw a surprise party and then sat me down and like played it for me, and I like bawled my eyes out. But that day he came to my house and he's like, hey, let's make a video. And he just like puts a camera in my face and starts asking me questions. So I'm like, this is fucking weird.
Yeah.
So so then
that's what you're asking.
Hey, get it done, baby.
So then I was like, okay, this is weird. So I just gave him like degenerate answers to all his questions.
So what was the degenerate answer?
I don't think you should say it, honestly.
I'll say it. I think I was like,
you keep them curious for the next episode.
We can keep it we can make it.
Then they're gonna come back to the second episode.
Next one will just be a degenerate episode. We'll just drink on the show and we'll see where it takes us.
That'd be fun. We should do.
So what's your real answer, JR? I'm actually curious.
If I was giving a fortune cookie and it was like, whatever's on this fortune cookie will be truth to this person.
Yeah. How
much time do I have to like? if I'm in front of the person, is it based on like who that person is, or just like a
There's like a
it doesn't
piece of
matter.
advice,
They're just
you know?
getting a sentence on a piece of, imagine they actually break a fortune. Like your job was to actually type a fortune cookie.
Like the most important information they could like have
Just
at
one
21
sentence,
or something, you know, or, you know, high schooler.
Yeah.
I would say something along the lines of find a way to be secure, like find a way to be whole. Don't try to find your value and worth in all these like external things, and at least give that some thought in your early 20s.
I got a practical answer and a deep answer.
Well, you only get one fortune cookie, bro. That's the point of this
But
question.
you
Yeah,
can flip it over.
Look,
You can flip
I'm
it
an
over.
entrepreneur. I'm gonna go and find
This guy
myself a
fucking
second
double
fortune
printed.
cookie. Okay, I'm gonna get 2. Practical one. I fundamentally believe that everyone should find a good therapist and just go to therapy, especially young people, because our childhoods fuck us up. Whether we have the best parents or the worst parents, you're going to experience trauma. If you heal that, you're way more powerful. Every single time I've gone to therapy, my business has grown like crazy. That's a practical answer.
Question though. Can therapy be replaced by a friend or a wife who also pulls those answers from you and helps you find that truth? Because I believe that. Like I know going to someone else would be cool.
Well, this
but
is
like,
my fortune cookie.
You're right. You're right.
Just kidding.
Second
It was a
one,
joke,
second,
Eddie. I was
second
just messing.
Second one.
I'm just kidding.
Skip it though. Skip it though. Go to the second one. We'll leave it to the next show.
No, I can answer it really quickly. I think like that's what's worked for me. So I don't know if that'll work for everyone. So context
That's
there.
very unique advice, by the way. Like,
Yeah, I like that.
I don't think anyone else would have said that on the show.
Yeah, and I think like it's been one of the greatest ROIs on myself, on my business, on my relationships, on my happiness. And it's made me much better at business, which is crazy because I can really show up as my full self.
You should offer all your employees free therapy on the
Here's the caveat. You have to find someone good. So what I was going to answer is like, you have to find someone that like the person that I go to is like very, not like touchy feely. They're very like direct. They'll challenge me back. It's like someone
That's what I would need.
someone at my level that's like, no, Joel, you're wrong. So you have to find someone, and what I would say is like, that's a great place to start. But I think if young adults could, especially men, could work through their shit, they'll be way more powerful. And I'm a huge believer in being competitive. I'm a huge believer in being a savage. But if you can work through your trauma and then bring out the savage, you're unstoppable. Because then you're in control. It's almost like you
It's
have
like
this,
no more kryptonite kind of thing.
Yeah, it's what Tim Grover calls the darkness. And if you can tap into the darkness without being a slave to it, you're next level. Maybe we'll leave it at that. I won't give you number 2.
Reminds you of
next
Jordan.
time.
Wow.
That was good.
A marketer at heart, man.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much. Honestly, like I know you guys could have gone anywhere this weekend, and you came to Atlanta, and I think this was a pretty good start to the weekend. But hopefully we have a second episode because I think we have a lot more to talk about between the 4 of us. But
Let's
Fuck
do
yeah.
it.
thank you so much for your time, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank
Sweet.
you.
Where can people find you?
Oh yeah.
At official Joel Kaplan on Instagram. At official Joel Kaplan on Instagram. Give me a follow. And if you don't, I'm coming after you. Just kidding. It's a
At
joke.
The JR Rivas. If you follow me on Instagram and you're not entertained, I'll give you $10.
Wait,
Wow.
let's amp it up.
That's a
What-
fucking
what's
offer.
Eddie? What
no,
do
no,
you-
you're
what-
done, bro. You got your chance.
Eddie, if people follow us, what are you going to do for them?
What am I gonna do if they follow you?
Yeah, at official Joel Kaplan.
I mean, bro, I'm kind of feeling left out because we got the JR Rivas official Joel. I'm just Eddie Maalouf. You know what I
I'm
mean?
just Andrew.
I wish
Dice.
I
I feel like I need
I wish I
the Eddie Maalouf. You know what I mean? Before it. So
It's always funny when you know that they've been taken because it's like real Eddie Maalouf, the official Eddie
Yeah,
Maalouf.
yeah,
It's
right.
pretty great.
but
Real OG
nice.
JR Rivas.
Love it. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much, and see you later, everybody.
Peace out.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the 4Media Uncut podcast. If you want to work with us, learn with us, or even join the team and be a part of what we're doing at 4Media Marketing, just go to our website. It's 4media.marketing. No .com, no .net, .marketing, because that's all we do around here. And most importantly, share this with a friend wherever you're listening to or watching this on. Please hit that share button, send it over to a friend, someone else that you think will get value out of this. It would mean the world to us.
And if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you like this video and comment down below any suggestions for future guests. And if you're on Apple Podcasts, please rate this 5 stars and leave us a review there. That helps us tremendously in the algorithm world. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you on the next episode of 4Media Uncut Podcast.